Guys, I am so excited for this recording. Like, I can't believe I actually have all you wonderful ladies here with me. This has been like a dream of mine for many months now. So I'm so happy to have you all. And for all you guys listening, so welcome to our very first episode of I don't know how many in this series of motherhood. So yeah, I'm super excited because I have got 3 other lovely women joining me today, and I'll just hand over to you to just kind of introduce yourselves, just tell us something fun about you, something that people maybe may not know. And I'll start with you, Nonsi, because I saw you, Nonsi, aka Nobu, because I just saw your little reaction there. I was like, I'll go with you first.
Please, this elevator pitch is only reserved for interviews. I don't know what's interesting about me, but I am Nobu, aka Nonsi, aka, what's my Twitter handle? Nobu Tech, that's me. And I'm a mom to, how old is he? 2 going on 3, little boy, who's our world. Yeah, I'm a geriatric mother, as they say. I'm sure we'll touch on that.
We will.
And yeah, I don't know what's interesting about me.
Whereabouts in the world are you?
I am in the UK, slap bang, somewhere near London. So
lovely. Okay.
Yeah.
Welcome. And over to you, Wenkosi.
Hello, everybody. My name is Wenkosi, depending on where you know me from.
Okay.
Like I always say, the name that people use tells you what era they know me from. So Wenkosi is more like now, Musa for those who know me from way back when. And yeah, at Wenkosi on Twitter, also known as Khetla. I am a mother to a 6-year-old girl. Keeps me very busy.
Mm-hmm.
And I live in Maryland. So like DC area. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. And is there anything, well, I suppose like the whole differences in the names, the Musa, people know me from a different, those who know me from a different era will know me as Musa. Like how, it'll be interesting to kind of know why that transition happened.
I think like, okay, obviously from being at home, you grow up being Musa. And like I'm saying, like there are people who went to school with me at some point in primary school that know me by my middle name only, and then go back to high school and I was like, no, that's, that colonizer name, it's cute or whatever, but let me just stick to Vizolankai. So I went back to that. And then when I moved here, after a while, you're around different Africans and then they're like, oh, well, Musa is male, Musa is Muslim, Musa is this, Musa is that. Mm-hmm. And so people would see my name, Musa Wenkosi, and they're like, oh, so your name is Wenkosi, is Musa your dad's name and stuff like that. So that's where it transitioned from, basically. There's not like a really big story there.
No, I like it. Thank you. And last but not least, Khetla. I know I always say your name wrong, like Khetla.
It's all right. Because it's a really difficult name to pronounce. I suppose it's difficult for people who are not used to it, and I suppose a lot of people are not used to it because I'm like Wenkosi known by different names. So like people who know me from primary school know me with a different name. Kind of high school, so primary high school know me with a different name. My family and friends have another name. Khetla, I recently, well, not quite, it was probably in the last sort of decade, I've kind of picked it up and I was like, this is a name that I've hardly ever used, and I feel it needs to be utilized more. And not that I've dropped my other 2 names, they're still very active, but yeah, it's one that's kind of, I suppose if somebody knows me really well, they can find me on socials on like that name.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. And whereabouts in the world are you?
So I am in the UK. I'm just outside of London in a small little cute little city. In a cute little Roman city, just out of London, very quiet city, but I suppose because I am what I consider myself to be kind of not quite middle-aged, but yeah, I'm not a young mom, neither am I. So kind of, yeah, and I'm just at that I suppose, stage of life where I've entered the over 40s. So yeah, I'm there, but then I kind of feel like as well with, I suppose, with my personality, because I'm very introverted, but I find myself in a way sort of naive, but yeah, under that naivety is a lot.
It's a lot that will. And Khetla, can you just tell us how old your babies are?
So my babies are 16 turning 17 and 10 turning 11. Yeah. So they're not quite babies anymore, but they'll always be my babies. I hate being called that. So if they hear me, they'll be like, "Oh, mommy, don't." So yeah.
And how about you, Wenkosi? I don't think we touched on how old.
Oh no, I have a 6-year-old girl.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. She's my content creator.
Your content creator, we love her to bits. Obviously, she's like she needs her own little social media, her own platform. And I mean, many of you guys will know that I recently became a mom after 20 odd years. So during that time, like during pregnancy, during like in the very early few months when Lily was born. So I've got two kids. One's 20, I have to think, what year are we in? 22. One's 22, and I have an 8-month-old. So she literally just turned 8 months yesterday, so the 27th. Oh. But it was during the time when I was here, I was pregnant, and I was wondering, like, how do I navigate things? Like, so pre giving birth, for example, like there's a lot of things that mothers need to kind of, getting your hospital bag ready, taking supplements, doing all these things. And even though I'm a second mother, a second time around, I felt very alone in making some decisions or even asking some things. Like I felt guilty, like, how can I ask this question? Shouldn't I already know it? But I had my first child. I had Tamara when I was 17, and my mom literally came and she took over. I don't remember a lot of things, but there's a lot of things that have occurred now that I wish I had paid more attention whilst Tamara was born, whilst my mom was looking after her, and it made me really seek out help. So there's things that I was like, oh, what do I need to carry? Like when I'm going to hospital, like what do I need to do? Or if I'm feeling sick or I'm feeling nauseated, what's the best thing for me? And I guess it was in those times when I was feeling a little bit lonely, a little bit vulnerable, didn't know who to ask, feeling a bit guilty because I'm like, like people are going to look at me like, you've had a child before. How are you asking this question again? Like, and I'll be I'll be looking at TikToks, looking at like people's planning for the nurseries, planning for all these things. And I was like, what we need or what I needed was either I needed my mom or I needed just somebody to kind of really sit down and guide me through the processes that were going through my head. Or I needed to listen to somebody from a similar background, someone who's maybe had similar experiences, and just share my experiences and hopefully find common ground. And hence this idea came to mind. I was like, you know what, I should use Guidance Lab's podcast for this, because there's a lot of wonderful women, wonderful mothers who have been through this journey already. So why not tap into this knowledge? So in a way, we are kind of history taking, we're record keeping for future generations to come. And I guess I just want to hear from you guys, like, just what has motherhood been like for you? Like, what have you ever felt like where I'm describing or articulating it, like this loneliness where you're like, do I have somebody to kind of reach out to talk to about the way I'm feeling, maybe pre-pregnancy or after pregnancy, wherever it was. But what was it like for you guys? Like, I just want to hear from different experiences. Just anyone can just jump in.
I'll go first. I think for me, there's been a lot of ups and downs. So I think like Nobu, I'm a geriatric mom because I had my daughter at 35. So it's like, it's part of the journey is anticipated. I think always having been around like kids in the family and stuff like that, you anticipate certain things. But that pregnancy journey, for me, I think I didn't give it too much focus. I had a lot of things going on. I was at school. So it was kind of like, oh my goodness, such horrible timing. Mm-hmm. But the pregnancy overall, I'm not going to say was bad. And, I probably feel more of the loneliness, or let me say, I felt more of the loneliness after she was born than during pregnancy. So during pregnancy, I had a lot of things going. So like I was at school, I was in nursing school. So some of the things to expect, like I laugh about this because I had just finished my maternal newborn class. So I kind of had that part covered, like kind of what to expect, but it also made it scary because it's like some of the things you learn about in school in terms of like being an older mom, all the birth issues you can have with your child, Down syndromes and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, oh, I was kind of overthinking from that angle. Yeah. But in terms of everything else, I did tap into like my health insurance had a lot of resources, like in terms of your pregnancy journey, just like preparing you like through the steps. I don't ever feel like there was an issue with that part. My gynecologist was there through it all, but even just the overall insurance, the website, it's like they had a lot of resources, and I really used that. And obviously with times where I felt like, okay, things are not okay, I reached out, made a doctor's appointment or just messaged my doctor. So I had that. On the other end, there's like Umamam Dala and Umamam Ngani here, and Umamam Dala more like she's the matriarch, and she really like, she would check in and things like that. Just, I got unsolicited advice, the good kind and the bad kind. And from Umamam Dala, I have to say I appreciate, because she's lived here for a long time. So she's kind of like a bridge between our parents and where we want to be. So she's been here. So, she kind of knows what to expect, or kind of knows how to approach things. So without being, what's the word? Overbearing, yes, she would provide some of the information that I felt like I needed, whereas other people are like, oh, you're gonna do this. Like, no, I didn't ask you that. I don't need that kind of unsolicited advice. So a little bit of everything, just I feel like that part was pretty good.
So it sounds like you're saying that from even a medical health point of view, so the insurance kind of, there was a step-by-step guide for you. So then every step, like your first trimester, you knew kind of what to expect. And you still could reach out to the medical, like the health professionals when you wanted.
Yeah.
Which is quite different, like for us here in the UK. Not quite different, but it sounds like you had a lot more support. And I wonder, Nobu, if you can maybe share your experiences, because I know your little one was born like not so long ago. But how did you find accessing healthcare, like in the UK? What was your experience like of motherhood?
I think the prenatal journey, I should say, was quite good. From kind of when I took the pregnancy test, found out I was pregnant, I rang up, had an appointment with my GP. Even before he said congratulations, he's like, what would you like to do? Would you like to continue with the pregnancy, or do you want to terminate? And which I thought was so thoughtful of him, because say I wanted to terminate, then what him saying congratulations prematurely could have totally been so off. But I wanted to keep the baby because it's something that we had talked about, and I'd kind of accessed other specialist services prior to getting pregnant via my GP. And I had the best midwife. She was African, Ghanaian. So kind of, I think that helped in the sense that she was a constant from my first appointment to after I had Inala. So I just only had one midwife, and she was quite understanding, quite open, very, if you have any questions, please ask kind of thing. And she used to check up on me So from a medical perspective, I had good support. And then from a personal and family perspective, I actually kept the pregnancy quiet. I'm kind of one of those, I don't know where my old schoolness comes in, but I'm like, yeah, I'll when they see you kind of thing.
Right.
It's silly, actually, considering how big my bump was. Massive. But yeah, I had support from my mom, and I think that's kind of who I kept it to, my mom and a close circle of friends. And that's who were my support system. I kind of felt like if you had negative energy, I shut you out quickly. I had no time for that at all. Yeah. But overall, the journey was, I think, amazing. I had someone by my side, my husband, and we're both excited for it. Whatever I wanted, he kind of went along with it, like, yeah, whatever you want. I'm like, but the baby. And he'd be like, okay. So even things like maternity shoot, he started rolling his eyes initially, but eventually he was on board because he saw that it made me happy. Mm-hmm. So things like that really made the journey quite pleasurable.
Okay.
Yeah. And sorry, the geriatric bit, I was 38.
38.
When I had him, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I think that is something that we, like, I was.
Say it.
No, but if I say it, then, I always have a dig with Natasha. I'm going to hold that information. No, I'm kidding. I was 38, going on 39. I was 39, actually. 39. Yeah. Anyway, moving on very swiftly. And how about you, Khetla? Like, what was your experience accessing healthcare and just the journey itself into motherhood?
So for me, because I've had two different experiences, because I've had both my kids in different countries. I had my little one here, and I had my firstborn in South Africa.
Okay.
Yes, I got varied experiences from the whole thing. Yeah. Initially, like when I found out I was pregnant, honestly, it was like a joke, because I didn't think I was pregnant, and I was just like, oh, it's something in the water, whatever. Yeah. And I escorted my sister to see the doctor, and he's like, oh, I think you're pregnant. I was like, I'm not pregnant. He's like, let me test you. I was like, the test came back positive. I was like, sorry? He's like, they said to me, when did you last have your cycle? I was like, I don't know, maybe just before Christmas or something. And yeah, so.
And where were we now? Like in September?
Yeah, so I was like, by the time he discovered it, guys, I was going into my second trimester, but I wasn't showing.
Wow. So you had no symptoms, nothing. You were just there, just vibes.
It was all vibes. The thing for me was, and still this didn't even kind of like sort of trigger something in me, like find out. I have this, naturally I'm a person with a sweet tooth, so I was not eating stuff like because I was doing night shift. I was working in a call center and working at night, so I was eating stuff like crackers and yogurt, or stuff like that, which is just weird combinations. And I was like, oh, this is nice. One of my colleagues was like, I think you're pregnant. I was like, yeah, no, I don't think so, me. Till I found out. And then it was really strange, because at that time I was staying with my siblings. So they had moved from Zim to South Africa. Parents were both here in the UK. So, what the setup. Wow. I'm the firstborn.
Wow.
Looking after the little ones, and then I'm pregnant. I'm like,
oh my goodness. Your parents must have been like, yeah. That wasn't like super like, you're the responsible person.
You're the one looking after your siblings, and then you bring in another child. Oh, it was weird, because I found out sort of just before my birthday, and my mom was like, oh, I'm coming to visit for Easter. I was like, yeah, I'm pregnant. Now, now reality is set in. And I'm like, it was weird, because at that time I was 27. Okay. And you still have that fear, you would say, sengimithi enantshadanga umama uzathini abazali bazathini. Yeah, I was like, so I had to. I remember telling one of my cousins. My cousin told my mom. My mom called me and she was like, "Oh, I'm landing in 2 days. We shall discuss this."
Welcome home, Mom.
Yeah.
So the thing is, like, where she landed, it was not just only me, it was my young sister as well. So we were both pregnant at the same time. So it was a double whammy for her, double whammy on our part. But like she was like, she was very, at first she was shouting, and then she calmed down and she was really supportive afterwards. And she's kind of like, when she came and she was like, so what do you want to do? Are you going ahead with this and this and that? And I was like, yes, I am. Because actually my cousin had said to me, oh, you can have an abortion and just forget about it. And I was like, I don't want to do this because firstly, it's against everything I live for. And maybe if I do this, I might not be able to have other children, who knows what could happen. So I had kind of made the choice that this was what I wanted to do. I was like, regardless whether his dad or whether the dad's going to be there with me or not, I'm taking this journey. So she was like, okay, fine, that is it. But like the thing is, when she came, she wanted me to come back with her, but I was too advanced at that time to travel. I couldn't travel. I just sort of, when she arrived, I had just passed the kind of time that I could fly over. Yeah. So yeah, she was like, okay, I'm just going to support you from, like whatever you need. So basically, like my sister and I, she was there for us, even though she was halfway across the world. And it was really weird for us because this is Xolie and we've got like family Xolie and in Lesotho, but because we're not so close, my mom was the one who was kind of saying, okay, you guys need to get this, you guys need to do this. Yes. Also, I used to read a lot of like Living and Loving magazines.
Yeah, I remember.
So those took me through the journey of like what to expect and that kind of a thing. Yeah. And I used to go for my appointment. Like I remember going to register at the clinic. I went once, and the next time they saw me, I was coming to deliver because I had a gynae as well that I would go see, like intimate. Like my pregnancy first time around was like a walk in the park. I had no complications, nothing. I remember seeing my gynae, I think twice, only because I had spotting. And he just did a scan and he was like, no, you're fine. And then the second time I went to see him, I was actually in labor. And he was like, you're laboring and you can't go to the hospital you wanted to deliver to. So you need to go to the clinic down the road. I'll give you a letter. And like, yeah, I had my baby like within 2 hours after I'd seen him. It was really quick.
Like I wanted to kind of go into delivery and labor, but probably at a bit of a later time. And how about your experiences of comparing that to your second born, so that's Zachariah? So what were the main differences? Like I'm assuming now your parents were closer, your mom was closer. How was that for you?
Yeah, so now my parents were closer, but they were still like halfway across the country because I was up north at that time when I had him, and it was a very stressful pregnancy.
Really?
Very stressful because I was I'd applied to go into uni, and then I was like, okay, I'm going into uni and now I'm pregnant. And again, we had planned that we're going to, so this is a weird thing because we kind of planned that we're going to get pregnant the year after, because my ex-husband needed a year to get clear before we could get pregnant. And then it just happened immediately. And so it happened quite quickly. And I was still like very nonchalant about the whole thing until one day I was at work. And then I just had this horrible bout of nausea. And I was like, why do I have nausea? So it's just like, it just feels like it's just caught me unawares. And I'm like, so I'm ringing my mom and I'm like, I've got nausea. And I'm on my break. But anyway, I've got half the day, so I'm not really bothered. And then she's like, when did you last have your period, my child? I was like, I don't know. I know I had it, but then I can't remember. She's like, I think you should get a pregnancy test on your way home. And got pregnancy tests and they came out,
Okay.
Positive. So, but I think this time around, in terms of care, like there was a whole lot of care and quite supportive as well, because of my health. So I've got health issues. I'm asthmatic. I've got anemia. So all of that came into play.
On you regularly.
Yeah, so that's and they were quite quick on the you need to get the vitamins, and they were doing the bloods, and then got my iron levels that were low, so I was like on iron tablets. But the care was absolutely, and the thing is, if you don't come for appointments, they'll be checking up on you, whereas at home it's like, okay,
Yeah, it's so interesting because like when I had Tamara, I had her in Zimbabwe, and like I have no word of a lie. I wasn't planning on falling pregnant. It wasn't something I sat and was like, oh, I'm going to have a baby. No, it happened, and I think from the time that my aunt, because I was living with my aunt at that time, found out to the time that I gave birth, I think there was literally, again, maybe a similar experience to you as well, Khetla, that it was just a very short period. I hid my tummy. I was quite a big girl at that time anyway, so it was an easy thing. I don't know what I was expecting because, people were like, it's actually quite dangerous what you're doing. But my experiences then, like, as I said earlier, I apart from not, I was told not, I did nothing, my mom, then I went and lived with my mom. My mom literally looked after me, I remember she was just like, just sit down, chill, relax, we'll do everything. And then from the time, like, I even had, like, I don't remember taking any vitamins, that's for sure. I don't remember, I don't think I had a scan. Not I don't think I had a scan. I didn't have a scan at any point during my first pregnancy. And then comparing to the second time round, whereby it was right in the middle of freaking COVID. And, and this is where I'm saying, like, the support, the appointments, some were virtual. I lacked that going in to see somebody. And like, the times I'll be worried, like, oh gosh, like, what's happening with the baby? Like, is there anything wrong with the baby? I wouldn't know, because you'd have your scan, then it was like your 20-week scan, then there was a long period where you're waiting before you saw anybody, because the midwives were like at 38 weeks or whenever. So, and then it would be like a virtual appointment. So I really struggled with that. I really struggled in my mind that, like, what is going on? And I suppose the geriatric pregnancy question comes into play, because you are at more risk of complications, you're more risk of all these tests, like they test you all for these like they screen for like Down syndrome, they screen for 1,001 other things, which I never had done in Zimbabwe, but I didn't even have that knowledge, so I didn't have to worry. But then now you're here, this information is widely available, and they give it to you, like at every appointment they'll remind you that, oh, you're an older mom, we need to check these things. But that being said, like, I wanted to ask you guys as well, like, did you plan on being pregnant with your first babies? So those who've got two. So Wenkosi, did you plan to have Owami?
You know what? Like, even up to now, a lot of people don't believe that I didn't. So like I was saying, because I was in school, and I would always say, yeah, next year when I'm done with school, I'm going to have a child. I didn't have a plan, but I was like, I'm going to have a child. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, it's a year earlier, and here comes baby. So it was funny. I had a plan to have a child. Well, I wanted to have a child, but I didn't really have a plan, and it just happened.
Okay. So the desire was there.
The desire was there, and I had said, I had said after this year, which was supposed to be 2016, I'm going to have this child somehow. And
okay. And were you with somebody at that time? It was a discussion you had?
No, I was not. And I had just broken up with somebody,
Okay.
Who ended up being the father of the child anyway. But I would always say, I had a friend of mine, like a really good friend of mine, no bestie situation, but just a friend. And I would say, maybe laphana ngingathola inhlanyelo yomntwana, and we would talk about it, we would joke about it with my friends. And then, then things didn't go according to plan. But yes, I desired to have a child.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. And how about you, Nobu?
Well, I'd been married for 9 years at that point in time. And I think people were either scared to ask, are you guys infertile or what? Because I'd have bit their heads off. It's none of their business, first of all. But we were quite happy just being the two of us. I know what people say, how can you be together that long and not feel the desire to have a child who bonds you? But we're happy together just the way we were. And yeah, for 9 years, we were just happy being just the way we were. And then I kind of was like, listen, time is ticking along. I've got fibroids, which the doctor and the specialist had said, oh, maybe at some point they might need to be removed. And I was thinking, I'm not a fan of operations like that. So let me see if I can get pregnant naturally. So I think I stopped my contraception in August of 2018. By January, I was pregnant naturally. And that was quite a surprise.
Perfect well-being.
Yeah, so the baby was planned for. We didn't know when he would come, but we were open and receptive to having a baby at that point in time. We felt as if we'd done what we wanted to do, and yeah, bring it on.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about you, Khetla?
So the first one. The first one was.
You ready to say your first one? How about your second?
Yeah, my second one we had planned, but kind of like it was like for the year after. But I remember saying to him, it could happen at any time because we don't really know like sort of what happens. Because like I came off my contraceptives, I think it was December 2010, and February 2011 I was pregnant. Which is, I was shocked. I was like, they told me 6 months to a year. What are they doing? So it was just like, I just, when it happened, I was like, maybe this is God's way. Who am I to question whatever? And I did really want another child. And like, because so the thing is, because I come from a family of 5 kids. I've never wanted to have a big family, but I always wanted to have an even number of children, because now I had 1 child, I was like, I want another one. But then I went through a phase where I was like, I want to have twins. And I was like, if possible, if I have twins, I'm going to have another child. So I have like 4 children. I don't even know about the numbers thing, how it happens, but then that's where I am. So like, kind of, so I was like, Nobu can't grow up by himself. He needs to have a little sister brother, and he's ended up with a little brother. Just like
it's better, and that's the way it is. And how about you, Wenkosi? Are you keen on having a sibling for Owami?
I really wanted to, but now I'm just like, there's no way. Like and this is very recently too. I was like, nah, that's not going to happen. The way life is lifing, the Jolo business and all that other stuff. I'm like, no, it's okay. I'm cool. But I always wanted her to have a sibling.
Yeah. Okay. Nobu, dare I ask?
I won't bite your head off. No, we do want a sibling for Inala, but kind of, how you can have primary infertility, I think. And this is no doctor's diagnosis because waiting lists are so long to see a specialist and stuff like that. I think somehow we're experiencing secondary infertility because it's just not happening. No matter how much we try and pinpoint the days or whatever, initially it was stressing me out because I breastfed for long, thinking maybe, okay, that could have been something which was stopping it. Then we kind of cut down on the breastfeeding so that it stops being a natural contraceptive, as it were. And it's just not happened. So probably going to go through the private healthcare system versus the government-based backed one, because I'll be waiting forever. I had an appointment, I think, for October this year, which was given to me last year in December, but it's been cancelled already. So yeah, I'm on a waiting list, I'm sure, for 2 years' time. By that time, I'll be 43? I just kind of want to do it now if possible, but if not, that one is a blessing and we'll be thankful for him.
Yeah. And do you think there is is there a time, like, you've mentioned that by that time it'll be 43. Is there a time where you feel like, after this time, I'm not going to try? Or are you just going to see how it goes?
Probably just depending on my body, but I don't think later than 44. I will try kind of to push it along, either go to a different country, medical tourism, just do something, because we would really like that second child.
Listen, and I know, like, I know we've had conversations. I know that it's a desire for you, and I am hoping and praying that it happens for you when you want it, that you get exactly what you need. And one thing, so I asked you guys, like, Khetla, I was asking you the names of your kids, and there's something that comes across quite strongly in that the names that you've given your children have got meaning or are biblical. So can we just talk about that a little bit, about identity and a bit about cultural identity as well, like what that means for you, for your kids as well?
Sure. Yeah, no problem. So, like, for me, I have 3 names, English, Zulu, Sotho, because my dad is Zulu, my mom is Mosotho. So I've got names from each of my grandparents. So I initially, because I'm the firstborn, I'm named after my maternal grandmother. She is Elizabeth Jabulile. So she gave me Jabulile because I'm the firstborn. And yeah, they were all happy that, okay, finally there's a grandchild. And then Khetla is my Sotho name, but it's actually short. It's Khetla Yatsana. So when I was born, I was very fragile. They didn't think I was going to live to the age that I am now. So they gave me that name, which is Shal, which means fragile, really. And so, like, with our children, with my siblings, it's the same thing. All of us have either one or the other, but we have a name from each of our grandparents. So with our children.
To your children, though? Like, what, like, your kids' names? Like, Lebohang?
Yes, so Lebohang is Lebohang, Lemmy, Michael. So I named him Michael with his dad. Lemmy is from his dad's side of the family, and Lebohang is from my parents. So, like, because also culturally, it's a really weird thing, because culturally, I belong to my maternal grandparents. So, like, and their family. So basically, anything to do with me, people have to go to my uncles and my aunts on my mother's side of the family. Like, my dad's side, they get involved, but then it's more. So so that's the thing. And then Levo then he belongs to really my parents. So he's their child. So my kids then culturally are from, like, my second born, mine. So Zach.
So what does Lemmy mean?
Lemmy, I'm not sure. It's a Zambian name.
Okay.
I honestly, I don't know what it means. His dad gave him that name. Okay. So he never really explained, like, what it's about. Yeah. So well, that's I just kind of don't have any clue to it. I tried to ask him and he still couldn't really explain to me.
Yes.
But with Zach, what happened was when I was pregnant, so my ex-husband was like, if we have a daughter, he's going to name the child. If we have a son, I'm going to name the child. Okay. So like I knew I was having a son. It's like when he went for our scan, the 20-week scan, and they're like, oh, do you want to know what you have? And I was like, I'm having a son. And they're like, you seem pretty confident. I'm like, yeah, I know. And when they did it, it was like, oh, you're actually having a boy. I was like, I know, I told you. So Zach is actually named after my dad. He's got two of my dad's names. So he's Zachariah Moses, and Gobano is his Sutu name, which is uniting of two families.
Oh, lovely. Yeah. Nice.
So,
and how did you went with Owami? Like, was it for you to?
So, again, so her name is Lindiwe Owami. And again, along with the quote unquote plan to have a child, I was like, oh, I'm going to have Owami. And that was always the nickname that we used. But for some reason, first of all, I didn't know what I was having. So I didn't want to find out.
Okay.
And I just thought it was part of the fun. So I waited. And so, you know, Owami was just a nickname that, my friends are like, oh, when Owami, da, 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 da. And it stuck. And I was like, actually, I can. Right before, probably before she was born, I remember making note, and I was like, it would be weird for the child not to have that name. So that was set as a middle name. And then Lindiwe, it was like a combination of things. And, you know, my aunts are like, oh, we've been waiting for Umzukululo and things like that. So why a Lindiwe, you know? And then coincidentally, that's also my sister's middle name. So I was like, okay, I wanted to give her Ibizo Lesintu with meaning, but also something that will most likely not be butchered, although it still gets butchered, but it's not as bad. And I often talk about when I was growing up, one of Mama Mngane, she has one name and it's a Ndebele name. And she always was very big on names because she traveled a lot. And she's like, you know, she'd go to places that people are like, oh, how come you have one name? How come you don't have another name? And she was like, that one name is enough. And Amabizo Esintu, you know, she kind of like, without realizing it, she drilled it into me. So that was always something that was very important to me. So I feel like that's where that came in, and it was always important to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Nobu, Inalinati, with an apostrophe.
Yes, which has been misspelled by even my mom. I was like, go, what's happening?
How do they misspell it? Inalinati. How do they?
So it's spelled INAL apostrophe INATHI. Because obviously the linguistics of Ndebele, you can't have vowels after each other. You kind of have to drop one and have an apostrophe. So Inala Inati, as in abundant harvest, has been realized he was our harvest after all those years. So I named him that. I had the name. I said to his dad, I didn't want to find out what we're having, but regardless, it would have been a unisex name. I think it would have fitted well. So yeah, I'm giving that name. It's like, no one's ever heard of that name before. Is it a Ndebele name? I'm like, I don't know, Zulu Ndebele Xhosa, because the dad is Xhosa. And it fits, but we have trouble, even from grandparents in South Africa, family in South Africa, they mispronounce the name. It's like a tongue twister, which I think is strange because there's no clicks. And then he's got a middle name. I said to his dad, you can give the middle name, but make sure it's an African name. And then he went ahead and gave his dad's name, which is an English name. I didn't even have fight in me because I was so tired. I was like, yeah.
What is his middle name? Like, I don't think I even knew that.
It's such a granddad name.
Like that. Such a granddad name.
Which when people say it, Freddie, I'm like, no. Call him Alfie.
But that's not bad.
I
It's not too bad.
How that's it, you know?
Yes.
Alfred.
Fantastic.
So they're like, Alfred. Yeah, no. I saw Fred. Alfie. So I've drilled it in him. What's your name? Inala Alfie. Okay, Nala. That's how we like it.
I wonder as well, like, guys, like, so my oldest is Tamara Nombilo, and you know she's like, oh, Nombilo, she wants to change it to Natasha. She's still at that age, or change it to Natalie or something. And I'm like, you know, that name, it's meaning of it, like more life, like mother of life, you know. And I feel like she has brought such life to me. Like, and I always tell her that, but you know, it falls in the wayside. And Uliana is like it's just raining abundantly, you know. It's just the blessings that come after I guess abundant harvests, so to speak. Mm-hmm. So it was important to me that as a Ndebele person, that she has a Ndebele name, Uliana, and Tamara as well. It was very, very important to me. But I'm just curious, like, were you worried about, you know, you mentioned it, Wenkosi, about the butchering of names, like, you know, at least Lindy is something that is, you know, very, you have Lindy's is quite, it's almost very like, can be like Linda, you know. Mm-hmm. So it's quite easy. Oami is, I suppose that's easy as well. But did you ever worry about, you know, like what that means when they're in playground and people are like, what does it Oami mean?
Yeah, the thing is, I'm trying now to teach her to always correct people. Mm-hmm. Like I said, of all the names I thought about, I felt like that was the simplest, you know. And of course, you still get people saying Lindy Wee and things like that. And I've had other things that I'm just like, you know what, that's just ignorant because it's lack of effort. But I tell her, don't let people mispronounce your name. There was a teacher, I think she was subbing for a while. I'm trying to come with the misspelling with the W-I at the end. And I was like, that's disrespectful. So I teach, I'm like, no, don't be okay with people saying your name wrong, because once they say it like that, it's not your name, you know. Mm-hmm. So there's always that concern. And another thing I noticed, like, back in the days with my old job, my supervisor, like, he was so bad with names. Like, he didn't try. He would just like kind of skim over and just say something. And I'm like, I see this every day. So you can imagine what's happening with Umdwana when she's not here. So I try to, you know, teach her the importance of don't let people say your name wrong and don't be afraid to correct them.
Okay. In Nalinati, does he get called Freddie at school?
Oh, hell no. I would literally have a fit. They would chuck me out of the school gates and security. But, you know, when we've gone to hospital, when he's been poorly and stuff like that, you get the nurses saying Alfred. And because it's not a name which we use, I'm zoned out thinking, who are they calling?
Like, who is this child?
Like, oh, we thought it was his first name. I'm like, no, it's not his first name. But at school, he's Inala, I-N-A-L-A. And that's how, there's no shortening it to Nala, N-A-L-A, because that's kind of from The Lion King. People name their cats and dogs that. And I don't want my child to be associated with kind of tomfoolery like that. So I'm very insistent that it's Inala. They spell it correctly, and we're going to continue that way. He himself knows. We kind of drill it in him. What's your name? He'll say it, the full name, and mispronounce it, and we correct him, as well as middle name and last name, so he knows who he is.
You know, that's I think it's very, very important. Like, I noticed that as well, like when I've been taking Uliana to like hospital appointments. So Uliana is Liana Amara. And they completely put Uliana to the side and like, Amara. And I'm just sitting there like, are they calling Tamara? I'm like, what is going on? I'm just like, but anyway. But and also just to kind of really hone in on us as mothers as well. Like, you know, I'm curious to know, like, what else are you guys juggling, you know, besides being a mom? Like, you know, What are you doing? What are you, and how are you doing it? Like, honestly, I have just gone back to work. I'm going back to work part-time. And I take my hat off to absolutely everybody, to every woman who is working and looking after children, because wow, it is exhausting. It is a lot. How are you guys doing it? And share some tips, share some tips for a new mom, quote unquote.
So I'll go first.
Go for it.
I'm a part-time mom. Mm-hmm. So luckily,
you say you're a part-time mom.
I'm a part-time mom.
Okay.
Like, I'm a part-time mom in the sense that I'm the mom who's there for consultation, parents' evenings,
okay,
paying clubs and whatever. I'm there.
Yeah.
I am lucky, fortunately, unfortunately, that I left up north, moved back down south, and I'm like probably half an hour's walk away from my parents' place. So when I moved back down, when I relocated, I had no place to stay, so I moved in with my parents. And so my little ones have been here. They've literally grown up in their house. So when I got my place, they refused to move in with me, and they were like, "Oh, mom's house is too small, so we want to stay with grandma and granddad." And then they have their own rooms here. So me, when I come here, I need to ask, "Can I sleep with you?" So they,
their space.
Basically, I'm invading their space, and literally, I have shared contact custody with my parents. So I've got full custody of both my kids. But so I parent with my parents, basically. So that's how I've managed. Other than that, honestly, if anybody had to ask me, if my parents had to go back home, what would I do? I was going back home
with them.
I would not survive.
Or send the kids with them.
Yeah,
because
guys carry on.
Guys, it's hard. I did it when my marriage fell apart. So my marriage fell apart due to domestic violence, and I had to leave home, and then I had to start parenting by myself. It was difficult. I was in my final year of uni and had 2 children. It was the worst. That year, I was supposed to have sort of repeated that year, my final year of uni, and I was like, I'm not coming back here. I just want to do this and just leave. So I did that year. After that year, packed my house up, relocated, because I was like, I can't do this. And my mom was coming sort of every few months, every couple of months, to come and spend a week with me with the kids, and then she'd go back. But I was just like, I can't do this. This is so difficult. And so that's how it's been. So I came back, and then when I got my place then, and so now I'm back working full time. I've changed jobs where I used to work in mental health, and I've now moved into domestic violence services. And so that's the job that I've recently started doing. Maybe about I started in December after I lost my brother. So when I lost my brother, I was in the middle of changing. Then I took a break out and then started in December. So that's kind of where I am.
Well, kudos to you. I think being and I know you've openly spoken about your experiences of domestic abuse, and being now working in that environment. I think I take my hat off to you too as well. I think that is absolutely amazing. There's that empathy that you can give to these people who are suffering or experiencing that. So I salute you, But thank you for sharing that. How about you guys? How do you guys do it? How are you juggling Owami and work?
So I'm literally finally at a point where things balance. So
listen, that stresses me out, because you tell me that it's going to take me 6 years.
Yes. Well, no, only because your situation is a little bit different. So obviously, generally, because like I say, how the child came to being, it was literally me. You have the other parent who drops in, yes, Katsak. So I don't have that reliable help from that end. I was lucky because when she was 5 months old, my aunt came from Zim and she was helping me. at the time, it also worked because I was working from home. So for the past 5 years, I've worked from home. But it ended up being, it was convenient. It wasn't really what I wanted to do. So I finally said, okay, you know what, I'm going to go back to my nursing job. And that meant working outside the house during the pandemic. So I switched jobs last April. And that has been the most stressful time of my life because, okay, obviously my aunt was helping me until she was about 3. And then now I was still home, and then there was a pandemic. It was fine. We were both home. So now when I decided to work outside of the home, I was getting help like from her dad to get her back and forth to school.
Yeah.
One of my other friends, my aunt. But it was a lot because it's like trying to figure out, okay, Namusha, who's going to drop her off, who's going to pick her up. It was a lot. And when I went to the job last year, it was kind of like, oh, okay, the job is 3 days a week. It sounded nice, but those 3 days were intense because I had to be at work between 5 and 5:30 a.m. And then I wouldn't get off work until maybe like 5 p.m., but the time varied depending on what time the last patient was done. So that was stressful. So even though I'm working 3 days, those 3 days were a lot. But then at the time I interviewed for a different job, which basically had me working 8 to 5.
Okay.
So after waiting, these people finally called me back, and I was like, you know what? A part of me, but this is the job that I wanted. So I took the job, and it helps because I can drop her off at before kids and go to work, and then I pick her up and down. I'm also very lucky because I think over time I've like tapped into my mom friends, you know, like being like, okay, you guys, you know, the kids can play this time, then that way you have a bit of downtime. Sometimes my other friends that don't have kids, they're like, oh, we'll take her for a day. And I'm like, I don't refuse. Like I've learned when you do get that up, because sometimes people don't have that. So just being able to be endlessly watch TV uninterrupted, you know, just sit in silence. I really appreciate those moments.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I guess my experience, I guess depends where you work and also it's personal circumstances. I took a full year of maternity leave, and that was the best thing ever because I spent time with the baby. He grew up. I put him into nursery just before he turned 1 when I was due to go back to work. And I'll take him just the mornings. Initially, it was the mornings because I was like, no, what if they mistreat my baby? I'll miss my baby and all of that.
Yeah.
So half days for the first year. And then only last year, September, did we switch to taking him to nursery full time. And he loves it. He enjoys it. So I do the drop-offs and the pickups. If I get called because he's poorly, I'm the one who goes to get him. Luckily, my previous job, I was working from home and they were quite understanding, but I kind of found it stressful because it's one of those where when you come back from maternity, they think you've got mom brain and clashing with my manager and whatever else. So anyway, I decided to leave last November. And when I was seeking out a new role, I made sure that it was fully remote. I was like, I am not compromising on that because if I am to work in an office, I get to work 9 o'clock, 9:30, I'm packing up my bags to say, my son's ill. They don't understand that.
No.
And I get that as a business, it has to operate. So I work fully remotely. If he's poorly, he's with me. I don't even tell my manager, or at times he'll wonder when I'm having a Teams meeting and they're like, oh, he's at home. I'm like, yeah, he's poorly. And I'll just kind of switch back to the meeting as in, this is not affecting my work for the day. Let's just get on with it. In terms of downtime, luckily, him and his dad and me are together. So that's someone who kind of is consistently there. And if I need some downtime, it's like, Tatumtanako, please do whatever you need to do. Last week,
go out of the house.
Last weekend,
I'm not bad at you.
Last weekend, I spent time with the girls. I was like, you stay with your son, whatever you want to do, you do, but I'm going out. So there's that kind of balance. Unfortunately, I haven't reached that stage like you, Wenkosi, where I can let go and let him go to be taken by anyone just for a few hours or whatever. Maybe it's because he's still younger and I'll be more open to it. But I just kind of feel as if it's either his dad or me that he's with. If I take him to my parents who live in the same town as I do, I kind of don't leave him there because I just feel as if he'll run them tired. I'm sure he does. The few hours we're there, it's like just like you can see it. So I think half a day, a full day,
it takes a while though, I will say, for me, because I'd always be like, oh, is she gonna be okay? Is she gonna be this? But then, like with some of my friends, they've been around since she was born. So, you know, they'd come to visit, they'd come, obviously, because of the timing when she was born, I still had schoolwork to finish. They would come just to hold the baby while I do some work and stuff like that. So I've had that support. And so she's grown and known these people. And surprisingly, I think because of just that familiarity she has with them, it helps me to be comfortable. I don't worry. I've been around her with those people, Sisonke, so it's kind of like, yeah, no, she's used to them. I've never had to get like a sitter. So probably the most foreign place I've had to leave her is at school. So I didn't take her to, because I was home, I didn't take her to daycare. I put her in preschool when she was almost 3. So at that point, why I said Kuluma. So obviously, you know, that also helped me to be a little bit comfortable. So things have, I mean, sometimes we focus on all the things that are not going right, but when you look at the things that have gone well and the flow of things, I'm like, wow, you know, we're here now, and somehow things always find a way of working out. So like, even now I was like, oh, maybe I'll find a sitter once in a while, you know, but that hasn't happened yet, and I don't know how I feel about it.
Oh, okay. Like, I feel there's just so much, like I feel we can go there's so many caveats to this discussion, and it's an ongoing conversation. I think we will be talking and unpacking for time to come, and it'll be really interesting. I'm hoping that we can get like even other people to bring in different like perspectives and things like that. But there's so much that we've spoken about today that I feel already it leads to so many other things. But I'm also just very wary that, you know, we are all mothers, and, you know, we've got the children and others to look after. But I think what I'd like to do at the end of each episode is just to take home message. Like, what would you want a younger you or a younger person who is maybe just starting out, and maybe they're not even younger, maybe they're just also a geriatric mother like us, what would you want them, what is one thing that you wish you knew before that you know now that you'd want them to know?
I'll start. I will say, I think this applies to parenting and just life in general. Speak up, speak to people, talk to people. Like, I know it's hard sometimes to open up, to ask for help. Like, I mean, with me, even the smallest thing, like asking for help, has been so hard. But I feel like once you're in a place with people and you have like dialogue, you'll find which people like, oh yeah, Nami, I'm going through this, and you know, people will offer their support, their help, and you don't know unless you ask. I know we're always afraid of being told no, but I think sometimes you know who you're talking to, and you get to that space where just talk to people. That person may not be able to help you, but they can tell you who can, and it takes a load off. I'm not saying would you burden people with your issues, but you look at the situation and you will find Gucci, you will get comfortable and just talk to people, talk to the people closest to you. They may know something, they may know someone.
Okay, I think that's pretty good advice. And like I said, that is something that I struggled with. I remember Nobu was one of the first people I told and that I was pregnant because I was suffering from terrible sickness. I was like, what did you do? I was like, what is this feeling that I'm feeling? So but yes, I think that is really good advice. You do need a tribe of people, and not being afraid to ask. I think that is something that held me back quite a bit, is because you just almost feel like people will be like, but shouldn't you know this? Or don't you have somebody else to ask? Or stuff like that. So I think that is really good advice, Wenkosi. And how about from you guys? Khetla, I'll start with you. Like, what is...
So for me, I agree with Wenkosi as well on the whole asking for help. I also like the whole thing of tapping into other mom friends. So I have a mom friend. It's really, so our friendship is like, it's absolutely weird because my young brother and her young brother are friends.
Okay.
And then Lebo and her son are also friends. They're like really close. So we've inevitably become friends. And she's the one person that I sort of know that I can call on if I need anything. But it's always that thing in Lokuzayo. Why am I bothering her? Because she's a mother also. But it's every time when she finds out, and a lot of times she finds out through Lebo that maybe something's wrong with me or something. And she'll be like, but why didn't you say anything to me? And I'm like, I just don't like asking for help. You know, I can take care of this. She's like, no, but then, you know, she's like, I know your mom is there, but then your parents are there, but you can't bother them. I'm here, you know.
But what is it? Like, what is it about? Is it a women thing that we struggle to ask for help? Like, what is it? Like, you know, Wenkosi, that was the advice that you gave. It's like, ask for help. And if you're saying, this, what is it?
It's Konoko Guti, like Khetla said, like you're thinking Guti, like she's a mom, she has her own things. But I think in being moms, in most times we're in different spaces. So while you're dealing with that burden, you know, maybe, you know, the kids are away or she has time free. You don't know unless you ask. But yes, we always have that guilt to Guti, oh my gosh, since we are not to Bolwami, you know, I'm burdening her. I don't know what's going on with her. And I think that also is something that people said. I see this a lot with people where they're like, we may not always think to do this, but when I think of reaching out to you and be like, hey, Xolie, are you in a space to talk? Normalize that before just starting to talk to people. So I think there are layers to it, but we can, I think, consciously get to a better place where we communicate without the guilt. Like if I say, oh, hey, Xolie, are you available? And you either say yes or no, and then I can proceed accordingly and not, you know, let me let you tell me what I know right now, you know, I'm not available, I'm not in a good space, or yeah, sure, what's going on?
No, that's really good advice. Nobu. Oh, sorry, Khetla, carry on.
Sorry. I think another thing also that I've kind of learned is like, don't be guilty that you're a mom, because outside of you being a mom, you're a whole other individual. So it's that whole thing, because that got drummed into me this week at work when I was like, oh, but then, I'm a parent, but then I've got, you know, and they're like, so apart from being a parent and being a working mother, what else do you do? My hobbies are all out the door now. And I'm like, I don't know what to do with myself. And they're like, your kids are grown up. And it's like, but it's also still keeping yourself intact as an individual, and your other hats there, like, if I'm not being a mother, what do I like to do? And tapping into all those things as well, and not feeling guilty that you're doing them.
Well, listen, next time we guys meet, that is one thing I really want to kind of hone in on about identity, you know, when you are not there's some cooking going on downstairs. I'm sure we'll see. But
there's some burning going on down.
Burning.
Make sure your house is not on fire.
But so I think that is something that I would really like us to talk about: identity, not feeling guilty about tapping into other interests, etc., etc. So, you know, that is a whole topic for discussion. But Nobu, what would you like? I know you're busy there with Nala. We can see him prancing about in the background. What is the one thing what piece of advice would you give to a young or an older mom just starting out, like, what is one thing that you wish you knew now? That what is one thing that you know now that you wish you knew?
To know your tribe. I guess it's said a lot. It sounds cliched, but actually it's so true. Know your tribe. Those are the people who will support you, your girlfriends. If they're your true friends, they won't ditch you because you're pregnant and you're going through the mothering journey and they're not. They'll be happy for you, support you, and still recognize, as Khetla said, that you are that individual outside motherhood. They can still talk to you, you can still talk to them. And also being vulnerable to the right people, being open, honest, asking for help and support, and just having a listening ear. At times you just want to vent. You don't want unsolicited advice because you know how to deal with the situation, or you actually haven't got to that headspace of dealing with whatever it is, but you just want to offload and say to someone. And as Wenkosi said, at times you just have to ask the person who you want to vent to, are you able to right now to listen to me? Don't just kind of hello. So yeah.
So I feel like I should ask that question like right at the very start now. Like, do you guys have capacity to record today?
Yes, or even as simple as, are you available? Because it kind of lets umuntu know ukuthi I need to talk to you, but it's not something that can be like half in and out. And I think most of us receive it well. So just like, hey, are you available? Do you have a moment? Or, you know, when you get I know when you say when you get a chance, can you reach out? Because people start thinking, oh my gosh, what's going on? But I think asking, which are you available? Because it means not just to talk, but just to have that time. Yeah. The language is there. We just have to use it.
Yeah. Okay. No, I appreciate that. Right. And just to end on a fun note, I think it would be really interesting to know where your children were conceived.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my God.
Do you remember the exact moment? Did you just go home and think, oh gosh, I wonder if I'm pregnant?
I definitely not Paris, Milan, or any fancy city. That's the no naming of a child called New York or whatever. So, at home, in our bed. And yeah, funny enough, I think about 2-3 days after he was conceived, I knew. I kept saying to another friend, I'm pregnant. She thought I'd lost my marbles.
Really?
But I was like, something happened. There's something I knew had happened.
What was it about the acts that made you feel like, gosh, this
I just knew. There was just something in me which was like, oh my goodness, it's happened. And so when she's like, would you like some wine? I was like, no, because I'm pregnant. And at that point in time, I probably was less than 7 days pregnant. I hadn't taken the test, but in my mind and my heart, I knew.
Yeah.
And
that's amazing.
At the end of the month, I just confirmed it.
Wow.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I think for me, first time around, I remember us doing the deed. It was, for some reason, I thought I was overly emotional that day. And yeah, I was just like, I was really in my feelings. Yeah, it's just like, and then I didn't have my cycle, but then again, I had an irregular cycle, so I wasn't really bothered. But then it was my weird. I have a thing for cigars, but I absolutely love the smell of cigars. And I for some reason, I couldn't smoke it. And I was like, okay. But then that kind of just sort of said, I was like, maybe I'm just tired from work. But I was like, I had a cigar that I got from my sister's ex that he was like, oh, this is a gift for you. You like, New Year's, you can smoke, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, for some reason, I can't do this. And I was just overly tired. And I was like, okay. But then it just didn't click. But also, I knew something was wrong when so I have this thing of cooking. I cook, and every time I cooked, I couldn't eat the food I cooked. Mm-hmm. And I'd have to go to Level's dad's house to eat. Mm-hmm. So I'll be like, have you guys cooked? And he'd be like, yes. So I'll go there and eat, and then use the food that I cooked at home. And then after I saw the doctor, then it clicked like, okay, go, you're pregnant. Yeah. But
so where were your kids conceived? Like, which city? You went on any exotic holiday?
No. It was at home. Both occasions it was at home, because even with Zach, it was the same thing. We had one night where it was just like, mind-blowing, passionate sex. And I was like, come through, like, what you doing today? But okay, let me not ask questions. And I had my cycle once, didn't see it again, and I was like, wow. Didn't think anything of it until the nausea hit, and I was like, okay.
Then it's okay, fair enough.
It was definitely a home run.
We hear you. How about you, Wenkosi?
There's no exciting story there. It's just I was at home, and like I say, the big part of it is like familiarity. That word is very, very dangerous. But it was like, this is, we had not been together for a minute, hung around. It was around his birthday, guys. So yeah, I remember that. But then it's like later, I'm a very regular person. So I'm like, a day, two, I go back to the calendar. I'm like, immediately. So I didn't have like Khetla, where you had that time where you didn't know. I did not have that luxury. I knew very early.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, for me, nothing exciting. It leads, and I too remember, looking back, I'm just like, I can pinpoint when that actually happened. But I didn't know with Uliana, I didn't know when did I find out? Probably like 7 weeks, 8 weeks maybe. Because I was just like, I just don't feel right, But it was the last thing I was thinking of. I'm not gonna lie. It was like, okay, so I'm pregnant. Anyway,
see, in one of the things, it's just not just about having my child have a sibling. It's like, you want that do-over moment where you can be like, oh yes, we went to Ngapi and this happened. Like, it's a whole thing that's planned. But
some boring African women. Come on, that's cold. No,
I can't say.
Yeah,
no mile high, nothing. It's just
nothing. It's every day at home.
I was thinking like, oh, maybe this time around it might be a bit, but then I was like, do you know what? I'm going to go out and make my pregnancy journey the best journey because the first time around I skimmed like a lot of things. And I did try and do that, and I tried to enjoy it as much as I could. But then it was, there was just so much in my way. Like, guys, don't be students and go to uni. Get pregnant.
I'm with you on that one. That's
yay.
It's tough.
It's tough. I was like, I remember the first time when I found out, I was like, like how it is at home. Now let's say so you can't go to school. And I'm like, can I go to uni now that I'm pregnant? He looked at me and he's like, what are you talking about?
Really?
He's like, well, in my country we can't do such things because you can't be out pregnant. He was like, you're in England now. So embarrassing, but and there I was there, a whole pregnant woman in class attending lectures.
Guys, there's so much to learn, so much to unpack, but I think we're going to wrap it up here. I'm also aware that there's the Champions League happening in the background, and it's already started.
I don't know if you can hear the people in my background. There's
I started already.
I'm sitting and I'm facing the window, and each time I look up here, when I go to the window again, I'm like, how many people are here? But it's fairly loud, so I was wondering if you guys can hear that.
No. But no, thank you so much, guys. I wonder if you can maybe just share your handles, like where people can find you. Maybe there's someone, a young woman, old woman who's just maybe pregnant and is like, oh, I relate to what Khetla was saying. Where can people find you?
So I am on Twitter. My handle is Khetla, but it's also Jovial Manube. Instagram is Khetla EJ, I think. Yeah, but that's basically where you find me a lot. My Facebook is Khetla, but I'm rarely ever on Facebook, so it's always Twitter and Instagram.
Okay, cool.
Facebook nowadays.
I know.
It's just
That's there. And where can people find you? Wenkosi?
At Wenkosi on Instagram and Twitter. Mostly Twitter. If you go on Instagram, you'll just be there to see my child, but it's her account now.
Creator.
She's a creator. And Nobu?
On Instagram, it is Nobu Tech, and not Instagram, sorry, Twitter, Nobu Tech. Instagram, it's private, kind of for family and friends. So I won't even bother sharing that because I decline so many.
Okay. No, and that's fair. We totally respect that. And I'm at MC on Twitter. So guys, thank you so much. We will be in touch. Like I said, I don't know when this will end, how this will end, but I see it going on for some time, and I'm hoping that you'll continue to join me in the next few episodes that we have planned. I think next time we'll be definitely tackling things like identity, and maybe just even tackling just what to pack in your hospital bag when you're going into, when you're pre-labor and delivery. I think that is something that will be quite good to actually note down. So if you're tuning in for the next episode, that is what we'll be tackling. So yeah, hope you tune in. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Xolie.
Thank you, ladies.
Xolie, thank you.
Awesome.